Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures, to imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and on today's show, we have a juicy topic for you. Oh my goodness, this topic is something that really impacts our confidence on so many different levels. But before I jump into our topic, I wanted to welcome you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. But also, if you are new to Win-Win Women TV, or maybe you've been here before, thank you for joining. But if you have not, I want to encourage you to go to winwinwomen.tv and kind of look around. We've got a lot of really great show hosts. We've got a lot of great topics. We've got tremendous shows available for you 24 hours a day. And we have multiple channels. So make sure to take a look at that. So this is kind of your one-stop shop. If you're a woman and you're really seeking either personal development, growth, or just entertainment, just check us out. Check out all the Win-Win Women, what all Win-Win Women has to offer for you. We even have local events, so make sure you check those out as well. Now, this is I'm your host, Alicia Couri, if I didn't say that before, but I wanted to just let you know that if you want to connect with me, so I'm going to talk about a lot of things today. And if you want more information or you want to connect with me a little bit more, make sure to go to alicia360.com, ALICIA360.com, and connect with me on social media, connect with me via email. We also have a free gift for you there. It's the 7 secrets to audacious confidence. And I'm going to talk about one of the secrets today as we go through this content. But in the 7 secrets to audacious confidence, we have that as a free gift for you. So you can download that free ebook and get on our mailing list, subscribe and go to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching this here, we have much, much more content on our YouTube channel that you can go check out. All right. Enough of that with me. Now I want to dive into our topic for today, which, like I said, is a juicy one. Where's the accountability? It's about accountability. Oh, goodness. I've been having a lot of conversations lately with leaders. So some of the work that we do out there in the universe is to help executives, help leaders develop themselves and also work better with their teams, helping them develop their teams, hiring more effectively, making sure they have really good team synergy and high productivity and a lot more joy in what they're doing, because that's where you're spending most of your day anyway. So you might as well enjoy being there at work or doing the work that you love to do. You may as well enjoy it. So that's my goal, is to help you enjoy the work that you're doing by making sure you're aligned to the work that you're doing. So I've been having these conversations with leaders like CHROs, CEOs, COOs, and one predominant theme, business owners, etc. One predominant theme that I've been hearing is a lack of accountability and responsibility in the workplace. Oh, a lack of accountability in leadership. That's huge. Like when people in the front lines and people who are individual contributors and even managers are saying, we don't trust leadership. That's like, oh my gosh. If someone's not trusting you to lead them and lead their organization, that's a problem. So where does the problem really lie? Where does it come from? And because I'm hearing it a lot, I decided to do a show on accountability. because accountability impacts not just your confidence, but the speed to which you can accomplish anything. And if it's in a business sense, the money, it impacts the money significantly. So if you don't think accountability is a business problem, it sure is. It's a huge business problem, but accountability is a personal problem as well, because accountability leads to trust, and trust is one of those foundations of not just self-efficacy and self-accountability, self-trust, self-love. That is huge, but also it impacts in your professional life as well, the efficacy and trust and ability to gain trust from others. So I have a bunch of notes right here on my trusty, handy dandy, remarkable tablet. And so what is the value of personal and professional accountability? Well, first of all, it helps you take responsibility personally and professionally for your actions, your decisions, and your behavior. I should say that the other way, your decisions, your actions, and behaviors. Decisions that you make, if you're not making decisions that are in alignment with who you are and your strengths, if you're not making decisions that are in line with your values, then most likely you'll play a blame game for someone. It's someone else's fault because you are out of congruency, you're out of alignment. So you need to understand that your accountability comes when you're in alignment and congruence with the decisions you make, the actions you take, and the behaviors that you display. So let's look at that for a second. Responsibility for decisions and actions and behaviors. If you are someone, so I'm just going to use this analogy, and I'm trying to think back at a time when this was me. I think there was a time in my life that punctuality wasn't a big issue for me. Like I'll show up on time for the most part, but I wasn't a stickler for time. I think when I was a teenager, probably early 20s, but by the mid 20s, nope, even before then, by the time I was in college in my early 20s, nope. By the time I got a job, when I got a job, I became a stickler for time. So, okay, so I have to even just backtrack that a minute because I'm really trying to think back into the archives there. I've always been someone who was punctual, except when I was in high school. Except when I was in high school because I hated school. Absolutely hated being in school, going to school. So I could care less about being there on time. I was there on time though, because my sister also went to the same school and she was a stickler for time, and my parents were sticklers for time. So I would get there on time, but I didn't care to. And if I slept in and I missed my ride and had to take the bus and ended up late, meh, big deal. But the minute I started working, I became hyper punctual because I was a flight attendant and I had to be there on time. Otherwise, the flight would leave me and I'd get into big trouble. So once I became a flight attendant, it's like I had to be there on time. And that on time became my life, having to be there on time. However, leaving that profession, getting into my own business, starting in the makeup business, I realized, especially here in Florida, a lot of people did not respect your time. They did not show up on time. Even other artists that I hired to come work a job with me did not show up on time. So timing became something that was this kind of elusive, variable thing. Very, very wishy-washy. Well, you can't be accountable to wishy-washy. Accountability needs clarity. When you have clarity, you can have accountability. So if you're not clear, if you're wishy-washy, that could be a problem with why you have low accountability and low trust. So accountability, your decisions that you're making, you can only be accountable to those decisions when there's clarity. This is the time, this is the date, this is the location, this is what we're going to do. Which is why when I started my first business in the beauty industry, a lot of artists didn't use contracts with their clients. They're just like, yeah, sure, I'll be there. I had contracts. And this was 20 something years ago. I had contracts with my clients that stated when I was going to arrive, when we needed to get completed with the job, and what we needed to have available. Who needs to be there at what time, when. All those things were spelled out in my contracts. And I would send to the clients ahead of time the itinerary. And sometimes I would get there and they didn't even read it. They didn't open it. They weren't ready. They were still asleep. Sometimes weddings, prep started at 5 a.m. I would knock on the door. They're still asleep. And not holding any accountability to the fact that I have to stand outside and wait 30 minutes to get started. And so when their hair and makeup ran late for their wedding, the photographer, the wedding plan, everybody wants to turn around and blame the artist. I was there on time and I could show that I was there on time, and I could show that I sent the client the itinerary on time. So when things run late, don't turn around and blame me for the schedule running off track. One of the things that I started doing before I left that profession or that business, before I left my business, was to have clauses in my contract for late arrivals and no-shows, because it was happening a lot, especially down here. Like I said, down here in Florida, there was no accountability to the time. Time is one of those big things that people aren't accountable for. And let me just explain really quickly how that impacts your money, and it impacts trust, and it impacts how much people want to work with you or not. In your personal life, how it impacts friendships and whether or not people want to be around you because you're not punctual or you don't show up on time. And I'm using time in this example because it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I hope that you don't struggle with the accountability of time after you listen to this, because what really impacted me one time about time, I heard someone say this, is that if you're habitually late or if you're always late, you are the most selfish person on the planet. I didn't say that. I heard somebody say that. I heard that said. I don't remember where I heard it, but I heard it. And I thought, wow, really? Wow. And then they went on to explain that because you think you're more important than everybody else, that you could show up whenever you wanted to and make everybody else wait for you. Said it is the most selfish thing you could do is to show up late. And I'm like, well, I'm not a selfish person. Remember, I said decisions, actions, behavior. So if you're aware of the fact that you show up late all the time, recognize that that is a selfish thing because you are not respecting anybody else's time but your own, and you're showing up whenever you want to, regardless of what anybody else has to do or what anybody else needs to have happen, because you're going to show up late. And honestly, over my years, makeup artists that did that to me, I didn't hire them again. If they showed up late once, showed up late twice. And then the other thing about showing up late is then making an excuse for why you were late, habitually, why you were late. And you always have an excuse for it, and you're not taking accountability or responsibility for it. I wasn't going to work with you again. So that's how it impacts in business. If you have your own business and you're showing up late, or you're starting late, or you're always doing things late, people aren't going to want to work with you because you're wasting their money. You're wasting their time and their money. So it impacts your business and it impacts your friendships. If I have to continue to wait for you over and over and over again, I'm not going to be apt to going out with you a lot. I'm going to be like, well, you know what? I'm going to find some other way to do something else to do, or some other way to be, because if you're always going to be late, I don't have time for that. I want to honor my time and be more productive, because the Bible says many things about time, by the way. But one of the things, and I'm kind of running off track here, talking about time too much. I want to stick on the accountability, but it's such a big thing. But the Bible says to redeem your time. So whenever I show up and someone's late, I either have a book that I'm reading or I have something to do, because I'm redeeming that time while I wait. So a lot of times it's like, all right, I'm going to fill the time with something that I need to do in the meantime, because I'm redeeming my time. All right, I'm getting off my time soapbox, and I'm going into the value of personal and professional in your personal and professional life. Decisions, actions, responsibility. So, number one, accountability eliminates the time and effort for unproductive behavior, unproductive things that you're doing. So when you are accountable, so let's say you made a New Year's resolution, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. Going to get in shape. I'm going to go to the gym. Well, okay, you've made that decision. What action are you putting in place to make sure that you're going to the gym 3 days a week? Have you put it into your schedule? Have you done certain things? Have you told other people to keep you accountable to it? Have you hired a coach that's going to make sure that you're there? Or maybe you have a friend that will go with you. What are the actions that you have put in place to make that decision something that now the behaviors that you are going to demonstrate will be aligned with that decision and keep you accountable? So eliminates time and effort with unproductive behavior, so that, day one, you're not choosing to do something else, because now you've taken certain actions and now the behavior has to follow the actions. And that's going to eliminate your time and effort doing something else that you shouldn't be doing to avoid doing the thing that you said you're going to do. So that's one. It builds self-trust, right? That self-trust I talked about, it builds that self-trust, that self-efficacy, because now you're accountable to you. And if you do something or say that if you made a decision, that self-trust, okay, I'm taking actions towards that. And now my behavior is that of someone who does this, who goes to the gym, who pays attention to their health, who does the right things health-wise. So it builds self-trust. When you lose trust with yourself, it's difficult for you to trust other people. It's really difficult. It's a subconscious thing, but when we don't have self-trust, we don't trust others. And because we let ourselves down, so we automatically think other people are going to let us down too. And when they let us down, you're like, see, I knew it. But when you build that self-trust, you're able to trust others and give them that trust. And when you give them that trust, they, for the most part, tend to return that. But if there's someone who's learning to be more accountable too, not only are you giving them grace, but you're also helping to steer them in that direction of accountability. So if someone, for instance, I'll go back to the time thing just for a second, says to you, you know what, I know that I have this habit of not being on time and I need help with that. Could you support me and help me with that? Then they're being vulnerable. So now you get to be a good friend and say, yes, sure. How would you like me to support you in that? Do you need me to call you? Do you need me to to buddy up with you, you know, as much as you could do to help them with that. Ask them how you can support them in that to help them be accountable for it. So builds self-trust, builds trust for others. It builds your character. When you become more accountable for things, it builds your character. When you take responsibility for things, it builds character. Taking responsibility is not passing the blame or, you know, kicking the can down the road or saying, I didn't do it, they did it. But really, even if you did not, even if you weren't fully responsible, what part in it did you play? What was your part? Sometimes when things go sideways, go awry, you can't just sit back and say, well, I had nothing to do with it if you were a part of it. If you were a part of it and something went sideways on it, what could you have done so that it didn't go sideways? Were there things that you could have maybe reminded some people about stuff or taken on something? What was your role in it going sideways? As a leader, you need to check that sometimes instead of saying, well, you know, hands off. I had nothing to do with that project. That wasn't on me. That was on them. They dropped the ball. And that may be some truth in there. That may be a truth, but also there may also have been opportunities for you to help that process along the way, to be more accountable to that process, to the results of that process. It amplifies your trustworthiness, your reliability, your responsibility, and your professionalism. It's all about ownership, right? Accountability is about ownership of the thing that you say you're going to do. In your personal life, it impacts you because it also helps build your self-awareness. Because when you stop to ask, what could I have done? How could I have been more accountable to the result in this so that it didn't go sideways? Then that builds a lot more self-awareness because now you're thinking outside of yourself to the impact of what your decision was, whether it was not to touch it or, you know, whatever your decision was in the process of it, you start seeing it differently. You start being more aware. It helps within your relationships because then you can really speak honestly and truthfully with someone, and help hold them accountable as well as them holding you accountable to things. There's a higher level of empathy, compassion, and understanding on both sides, both for you giving other people compassion and receiving it. If someone is not on time and it's a one-time thing, you have so much more compassion for them and empathy if they had a situation than if they're habitually late, if they're habitually doing something like that, because now you lose compassion and empathy for them. Even if this particular situation was different than all the others, you're not willing to hear something. So when someone isn't accountable, there's that lack of compassion and lack of understanding and lack of empathy that is extended. And you achieve your personal goals so much faster and with more joy. So those are, and in your professional life, let's talk about profession for a second. Accountability as a leader, in like you're a business owner or a leader, it helps build trust with your team. It fosters positive culture. It creates higher profits in less time because now there's clarity and there's accountability for what needs to happen to get to the results. And when there's clarity, then people tend to take action faster. When there's ownership, they take action a lot faster to get things done. There's team efficiency and efficacy. There's more integrity, team cohesion, all these things are byproducts of being more accountable. Transparency is another a byproduct of accountability. You can be so much more transparent and have, again, that compassion, that empathy that goes along with that. And you're paying less of a trust tax when you can step up as an accountable leader and not play the blame game or the finger pointing game. So if you've ever been in a situation, either way the finger was pointed at you, or you're pointing the finger at others instead of first examining what your role was in it and taking accountability for that, then you are at risk of lowering confidence of the team, confidence in you as a leader, confidence in yourself, like that self-trust that I talked about. You're at risk of losing those things if you don't practice accountability. So I have more notes, but I'm gonna stop there because I think I've laid out a lot when it comes to accountability. And one area, just one surefire tip that I want to share with you to help increase your level of accountability with yourself, with others, deals with the first secret to audacious confidence, and that's know yourself and love yourself. When you really get to know yourself, like I knew as a child, as a teenager, I justified a lot. I justified why I did things. I felt the need to defend. I was very defensive and justifying because I know why, but I don't have a lot of time to go into all the reasons why, but I would always have a reason or an excuse for why I did or didn't do what I was supposed to do. And so I would justify. I would always have a story, always have a justification for it. As an adult, I made a decision not to be like that anymore. I was like, I'm not going to try to justify things. So in order not to do that, I had to decide to walk differently. I had to take different actions. I had to look at where my integrity was on things and how I was communicating that. So I had to do a mindset shift so that I wasn't into justifying. I wasn't into making up excuses. I wasn't into blaming. And how do I do that? Well, first of all, I had to listen to myself, speak, and identify when I was doing it and shift it. And pretty soon I was able to hear it a lot quicker when it started happening, so I could stop myself and shift that. So that became a self-awareness of knowing myself. And then the second part of that was loving myself, which I didn't have a lot of self-love because I wasn't accountable to the things that I said I was going to do for myself. And listen, that's a work in progress. That accountability to self is a work in progress, because sometimes when it impacts other people, you want to, at least I do, I want to make sure that other people are okay as well. If I'm making a decision that might impact someone else, that I can be accountable to that decision, as long as I know that the way I'm making that decision is also going to be beneficial or as least amount of collateral damage as possible. If it's a situation where, you know, a friendship or something that can be a little tenuous or a little sensitive. So learning to love myself more, being more committed to doing the things, the actions and the behaviors that show me self-love, and accountability is one of those things, is a way for me to continue to increase my accountability. And I hope you could take that tip and increase your own accountability, because with that comes a deeper and greater sense of confidence, especially boldness, audaciousness, with that decision to know more and more of yourself and love yourself more and more. And with that, I want to encourage you to be bold, to be brave, and to every day be more accountable to yourself so that you can continue to build your audacious confidence. Until next time, this is Alicia Couri saying, I will see you on another episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win Win Women TV.